Hey guys, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In today's episode, we have Nora from Michigan, and she wanted to talk about her experiences, some of her finds, and share her thoughts and theories. Nora also shared her experiences on the Can-Am Missing Project, and the title of the video is Missing 411, David Politis Presents Missing Person Cases from Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan. All right, that looks really interesting, and I'm excited to see what the connection is with the missing people. But nonetheless, let's get straight into Nora's story from the state of Michigan.
Look at this tree structure. These, they're all broken off, woven in. It's almost like there's a door right here. Amazing. This is not natural for sure. This is totally not natural.
All right, Nora, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Miguel. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Nora, you contacted me and you sent me your experiences, some encounters that you had, and some photos of some structures and tracks. If you would, let's start off here with these photos, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about them, how you found them, and what you think they are.
All right. Okay. So, first of all, I live in Michigan, and I'm 61 years old. I have a lifetime of living in the wilderness, per se. I grew up, some people would say off grid, but just the way my family grew up in Michigan and out in the wilderness. I was lucky enough that my family, we traveled all of the United States during the summers camping and exploring nature and the wilderness. My mother was a teacher and a writer, and so I had a lifetime of being in the wilderness. I live in a very remote area or very secluded area of mid-Michigan right now. The pictures I sent you were pictures of what I was brought to by what I call pulls. I know one of your other guests had talked about, I believe it was Al, but they talk about pulls, getting pulled to a location or a spot, and we're talking geographical or GPS, like you have an inner GPS. So I get these pulls to locations. I've had them for so many years in my life. I've learned to explore them, and always these pulls, when I do follow them exactly, I'm brought to things. That's how this structure came to be. I was in an area of northern lower Michigan visiting a friend on their property, which is pretty expansive and extremely remote. And I kept getting a pull over to this other location on a ridge farther away from their property. And I kept saying, I need to go there. I need to go there. They knew about me and my background and said, okay, I'll get you over there, but there's no roads that take us there. There's some fire lanes that they cut in during the forest fires up here in Michigan, and some these little roads that take you back to like these oil pump places. But other than that, there's no roads. So I kept the pole, I don't know how to explain it, in my forefront and just guided my friend on a quad as far as we could go on the quad, and then continued to follow the pole exactly directly right up to the structure that I showed you.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean by the pulls. I would get a feeling that a certain area would be awesome for Sasquatch, and whenever I would go there, I would find these structures and just evidence that the Sasquatch were in that area. Or if I would be traveling and I would think, man, this is a good spot for Sasquatch. I kind of have to take a pee break, so I'd pull over off the side of the highway and find like amazing structures. But I feel like
And that's incredible, isn't it? The same with me. I mean, it'll like, I'll walk directly to something. Like, nobody will see anything there.
Yeah, people ask me how I find so much stuff or had so many encounters, but really it finds me or I'm drawn to it.
In another instance, when I talk about pulls or me being in a place where there's something, I call it magic, but I'm an avid disc golfer. At one time, I was trying to hit all the disc golf courses in Michigan. um, it's great. You're out in the wilderness, you're out in the woods, the forest, you know. And I'll get to another story about a gifting stump at a disc golf course if we continue on. Um, but I follow these pulls. I was out disc golfing in an area not too far from that area, actually. Brand new spot, brand new disc golf course, whole group of people. But yeah, out of the group, said, no, we've done this one before. And they're all like, no, 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 we have not. And I'm like, no, we have too. I actually described parts of this disc golf course for them. Honestly, I had never been there. And they had assured me, no, we keep a lot. And no, we hadn't. Well, I felt this familiarity with that area. On T1, we all throw a practice shot and it sucked. We all threw off really horrible. It was crazy. So we're picking up our discs, and me and one of the female golfers with us were picking up our discs in this area where they landed by the tree line. She looks up and she's like, who's out here in the daylight with a flashlight? I look up, there's this light in the woods. I get my pulls also pull me to take pictures of things. That's why I have so many pictures. I'm like, wow, what is that light? I take a picture, the light goes away, we go back, we throw our shots over, we do the whole course. We don't think anything else of it. As usual, we review Nora's pictures that she takes on the disc golf course on the way home. And we see that picture with like the flashlight light in it, and I captured the light. And immediately my friends noticed something connected to the light. I actually posted that on Unique Trees. It's amazing the figure I captured. I can't explain it. I call it a protector of the forest or whatever, but it's actually this figure that's holding a light or a lantern. That was in broad daylight, like 10:30 in the morning while disc golfing in a very remote forest in that same kind of northern area of lower Michigan. Also, I've gone back to that area again and I found structures. Everything from what people, I know I've learned a lot from your channel actually on structures, like the arches, where it's not like another tree fell on them, but they're actually pulled over, and even the bark of another sapling is wound around it to hold it in place. I have found those. And I continue to be pulled to certain areas to, and every single time, I find something new that's that's okay, not natural like most people call natural, if you know what I mean. Not tree fall, not the way rocks happen to fall. I find stone circles. I'm brought right to them. I've had times when I've tried to photograph these circles and the photograph won't turn out. I can't even tell you how many photographs and videos I've tried to take of instances where it didn't turn out, or it was there and then you go to bring it back forward again to show somebody and it's lost. So it's a plethora of that in my life.
So how did you come across this TP structure? It kind of looks like a tent. The sticks are weaved in and out of in between the other sticks. What do you
It's
think it is?
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I tell you, there's more videos that go with it, and I had a witness to this. I used to go always by myself because I thought people would think I was weird about these polls, but more and more and more, I think with everybody being more open about things, more of my friends, coworkers, and such would go with me. So I had a witness on this one, and the whole poll. I actually documented the entire journey on the quad, and I followed the poll and told them where to go. Um, I when I was led exactly to it, like walked up to it, like I knew the path to it. But when I looked at every single stick was broke off at each end. There were they were stuck and wove around a tree that was already, that was growing there. They were not all of them were even branches that were of the trees in that immediate area. They weren't even that kind of tree. And it was big enough for me to walk into and walk around in. And there, in the video, I will resend it to you so you can get the actual videos. There were these sticks that were broke off in the shape of Ys, and they were across the crossbeam of what I'm going to call the threshold of the door, or the going into the door of this structure. And there were these like Ys that you could move around. I couldn't explain it, but I videotaped it very well. As soon as I did that, I got this rush through me, like a hit in the gut while I was standing inside of it. I can't explain it other than I just got this huge hit in the gut and a rush feeling. And it's even captured on the video where I say, "Ooh, I hope I don't get in trouble for being in here." I just had this, I don't know why. And then we left the area. I just felt like we needed to leave the area. The property that I visit all of the time there, that I'm pulled to, and I found many other spots of pulls um, that go far beyond even, a thought of, Sasquatch or being like that. Um, Another instance in the area with a different friend, so another witness per se, around a campfire. They were playing a guitar. Bridge Over Troubled Waters is what the song was. I videotaped it. Heard some strange howls in the woods that weren't coyotes. I was a very new friend to this person. This is the person that wrote to Dave Politis about me. We were sitting there. I get these pulls, these feelings, these intuitions, I don't know what you want to call it, that there, that there's others around, feelings. This person looks up, the guitar's put aside. We're just sitting by a campfire. We're kind of talking about Bigfoot, Bigfoot areas, things like that, belief sets, all kinds of things we're talking about. So very much in the subject matter. All of a sudden, this person looks up and there's a light, very much like the light at the disc golf course, like a flashlight light, about 15 feet above the ground. And it's moving from left to right. Oh, I'd say only, oh gosh, I wish I knew exactly. 25, 30 feet out from the campfire where we were at into the dark part of the woods.
What color was it?
White. It looked like a mag light. But here's the thing. It was not throwing out a beam like a flashlight. Like a flashlight throws out a beam.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a perfectly round ball of light, just white as white could be, like a star.
Mm-hmm. Did it seem like it was alive, maybe moving with a purpose?
Okay, so my friend kind of freaked out. I was very calm. I'm used to this all my life. I've had experiences. So I was very calm. And I was immediately in my mind's, I talk my mind's eye and my mind's ears sometimes. I'll have to explain that. I got the sense that this light, which was, I call it like, I don't want to say it was driven, but I want to say it was moving purposefully, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Through the trees. Now, it wasn't zigzagging and dodging the trees in this dense forest. It was moving in a perfectly straight line. Very slowly. Had plenty of time to watch it. My immediate feeling when I talk about my feelings, my gut feelings, things like that, my intuitions, the first word that came to my forward mind was reconnaissance. It was recon. It was observing us. And it was not that long after my friend was playing the guitar. And I talk about angel frequencies and playing music and angel frequencies and things like that. I get real deep, but it first experience for this person having to do with that, and I just felt it's observing us. Be calm. It's cool, I'm used to this. You'll get used to it as you open up your eyes and your to these things in the forests and around us every day. And that's kind of how that story went. And that's what prompted that friend to write to Dave Paulides, along with some other things that happened in my presence. So, but I'm on a forward march on Sasquatch. I'm currently researching the area where, I don't know if you know who, Bigfoot Rob, Michigan, Bigfoot Rob.
No, I
He had
haven't
an
heard of them.
Okay, so he had an experience in this area that I have a recent pull to. Well, the last couple of years I've had a pull to this area, again, associated with a disc golf course. And it happens to be on lakes near Cadillac, Michigan, where I grew up and where we camped all our lives. Had many experiences, lots of talk growing up about, things like Bigfoot, all that. But more recently, though, I've had, as far as Sunday, this past Sunday, I kept telling my friend, I got to follow this pool. I got to go back to this one area in this woods, which is not far from this gentleman who's got a YouTube channel now, researching Sasquatch and other cryptids, had his sighting. And I'm thinking, that's nothing. I've always had stuff go on there since I was a kid. But I recently had this pull, so I recently visited. Sure enough, it's kind of a beautiful fall day that we went on Sunday here in mid-Michigan. We go to this area, and I said, I'm going to have you go to a place and park where I've never gone before. I've never parked in this parking lot at this park. I'm being pulled here. I asked him if he had the patience to follow me in my pull. He was all for it. All right, okay, because this might be weird for you, but we did. We parked in this parking lot, and it was kind of at the back end of this disc golf course. Honestly, I don't even know if it was private property. I got the pull to go off, and we followed exactly. I even gave, before we went into this parking lot, I even gave a description of a building, like an old shed and some tree, and we came up on these things. And then we started following a path, and we, honest to God, the fork in the road, we came to the fork in the road, and I was asking for guidance, ended up going to the left. Nope, I kept getting the pull to go back, go back, go back. So we turn around, we go back. I keep following it. We have to go off path, and we're walking through tree fall and junk and, climbing over stuff. And I come to this area, it's almost like it's open, like this circle area. There's no growth, and it's open. And I say this word 360, and I make a turn 360 degrees. I said, there is something here. I don't know what. I'm looking on the ground. My friend starts noticing the trees that are surrounding this area, and they have these marks on them, like they're black paint, like symbols. Like somebody was there and painted these symbols on these trees in this circle. Stranger than that, most of the symbols on these trees are shot out with a shotgun. There's these blast holes. It was really freaky. We're like, wow. I'm just tripping through the woods following a pull to this energy field, or whatever you want to call it. And we come up on this circle that obviously something went on there.
No, that makes
And
sense.
we ended up ending it. And I said, as we're leaving, it was getting later in the day, and had a ways to travel back home. I said, I had to go back there. We're not done. There's more to be seen there. My friend exactly knows what I mean. They're actually feeling it too. So it's almost infectious in a way. When I take people with me on my pulls, we always find something.
Yeah, I can relate. And that's kind of the meaning behind Sasquatch theory is a lot of this you're just kind of guessing or gauging, and you got a good theory about where these things would be, or maybe a clear thought that just comes to mind, and you act on it and you find stuff.
And what I've been paying so much attention to, and which is exactly why I wanted to contact you above most others, is the openness to. So when people say, "What do you think Bigfoot is, Sasquatch?" What do you think it is? Do you think it's an animal? Do you think it's an alien? Do you think it's this or that? with what knowledge I've been given in my life and my journey through, my experiences in the spiritual realm, if that's how you want to put it, and I look at these things and I follow my pulls and I see the lights in the forest. I see, now we can talk about other times of communications with them in
Yeah.
the most unconventional way. Miguel, I ended up on this piece of property I'm in now. A very unconventional way.
Yeah,
It's a story in itself.
if you would briefly
It
talk about it.
well, immediately after I moved here, before I even actually took possession of the house, that the owners were nice enough to let me move my camper here and live in it while we prepared it for the sale to me, and we actually surveyed a chunk of property out of a homestead property of their families. They were so nice to help me out in getting a home. Um, Immediately after I started being here, people started saying, "Oh, you know about the Bentley Howler, don't you? You're right alongside the woods of the Bentley Howler." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I have. Bentley, Michigan is near where I live, and it's kind of an old story of these howls and a farm family that recorded the howls for some years. And this goes back into my like late high school years, and that's a long time ago. But that's how kind of common in this area of mid-Michigan some of these stories are. And one of my friends at the time I moved in here, and she helped me move in, she grew up in Bentley. She goes, "Oh, about, you know, do you believe in it? People say they're real." I says, "Yeah, of course I believe in it. I've experienced, how lucky am I to live in an area?" Well, no kidding. As I'm kind of exploring the property and picking out what area I want them to survey it and sell to me, I'm so blessed. I'm being pulled to areas around this property, and no kidding, I'm walking out into this kind of thick area of the woods and asking the owners about, like, "Do you guys hunt this? Oh, well, we used to a long time ago. Everybody's all crippled now. They don't really hunt it anymore." And I'm getting a pull to go this area, but my camera was back at my truck. And I got this, "No, you need to take a picture." For whatever reason, I ran back, got my camera, went back out there, climbed through the woods, which I had to climb. There was a lot of tree fall. Nobody did any clearing or anything like that. And it's kind of an old woods. And sure enough, and I even said to myself, well, of course, I come up to this gigantic X. And I mean, it's a big, giant X. It is not a natural tree fall because one of the large trees, I'm going to say they're close to 9-10 inches in diameter, is upside down. The roots are up and leaning against the trunk of this gigantic ancient triple oak tree mass. And there's a branch from the oak tree that it's kind of propped against, but the roots are up there at the top, at the top, and it's leaned down. The other one, the roots, again, it's the roots on top of the ground. It's not like it's broke off and there's a stump there. There's actually a portion of the root system, and it's just sitting on top of the ground, and it's, the other way, forming the X, leaning against the branch, a very high branch of this really old oak tree.
I've seen that myself as well.
Yeah. And there's
I don't
other
think the wind would
symbols
push out
around
the
it.
root.
Right. I mean, well, how's the root going to end up in the air against the tree? I could see if it was just like if it fell over by the force of another tree and it popped it out of the ground and it's kind of just popped up in the air. But this is leaning up against the trunk of the tree. And and you can't find where it came from. I looked and looked and looked and looked. Can't find where it came out of the ground at, like where it came out at.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I've seen the same thing myself. Before we get into the open communication, will you talk about these tracks that you found in the dirt, and what do you think about them?
Oh, yeah. Again, my pulls or my intuition, same area, near that tree structure, very magical area of Michigan. It's so remote. And there's like where my friend lives, like it's 9 miles to any kind of place. It's very remote.
You said Center, Michigan?
This place where the tracks are and where the structure is near Atlanta, Michigan.
Okay.
There's tons of history. Go on BFRO. I mean, it is so rampant with stories.
What do you
And
think
and
about
I
the?
didn't even know that going into meeting this friend and starting to spend time up there hunting and doing the other exploration. I didn't even know about all of the stories until I started looking them up when I had my own experiences there. But those tracks were amazing. But again, it was a group of people. We were playing cornhole in a pole barn we call the man cave, which sits out in the woods beyond their cabin. Um, and they're on this big knoll that's got this huge deep ravine. You almost have to rappel down it. There's all these ravines and holes like in this area of Michigan. It's amazing. Very thick, deep woods. People don't go there. There is currently, though, new foresting activity going on, which I think plays into a lot of things. But it was a drizzly night. We're all playing, cornhole and talking and yakking. Music's playing loud. I kept getting this feeling behind the building, like through the wall. I'm in this pole barn, but I kept getting this feeling something was outside. And so I was like, there's a door that opens up from the back of this pole barn, which they use to target shoot out of. And they have a shooting range out of this door at the back of this pole barn. I says, open that door and get some area. I kept getting this feeling something was out there. And everybody, they're used to me. So like, oh yeah, Nora. So they open up the door, like going outside, and it's kind of drizzly raining. And as soon as the door opens and like the music's pouring out and the lights, there is this very loud screech, like the beginning of a coyote taking off. You know how they get that high pitched yip, kind of. They get real up.
Yeah, I know.
So it started out like almost like a coyote starting to take off. I don't know how to. It's weird. My cat is reacting terribly to what I'm saying right now, just going crazy. So it was like this sound, like a coyote getting ready to take off. That high pitched part where they go to take off. But then it went weird. And then the very end of this screech, howl, yell thing, there was almost a human characteristic to the end of it, which everybody kind of, I mean, oh my gosh, they freaked out. Eyes went wide. Like that was weird. It sounded, as weird as it sounds, like an old lady cackle laugh. It was the weirdest thing in the world. It grabbed us. And it frightened, some people. And I wanted to go out right then, but it's pitch black, it's deep forest, that weird sound, the weird feeling. No, not going out there. So immediately at daybreak the next morning, I went right out there, and sure enough, look what I found. Those tracks.
Yeah, that is pretty
I
cool.
went I haven't even sent you all of them because I followed them. Had a witness again. I knew they were right around that target range. That there's a little like shed thing that's got these targets hanging on metal. They're like round metal discs that hang on these chains that you shoot at. It's a little white building-like thing, and I felt like I would find a handprint on it. I felt like it was right there hiding behind that thing when we opened up that door to the pole barn.
Yeah.
So I looked all around that. I did see smashed down, grass and stuff. And then I saw this smashed piece of rotted wood that obviously had been stepped on. It was brand new. Dirt, rain, whatever, it was brand new, smashed. And then next one I saw was the print I took a picture of, and then many more. And actually ended up being two sets. The smaller, which is what my foot is by, and then a larger one side, and followed them across this property, across a turnip field. And there was just enough of that misty rain and everything the night before that day, you could make out the impressions, even though there wasn't deep footprints like the one I got the pictures of, all the way, you could easily follow their path. And it was two. And they were so many feet apart, beside each other walking. And they walked right across this turnip field and across, um, this other like wooded area to this ridge, and where this really super deep ravine is. Like you can see the tops of trees looking down this ravine. It's that deep.
Okay, so the tracks were coming out of what area and going to what area,
So
do you
this
think?
person owns like, I want to say 80 some acres. I'll have to ask him again.
Hmm.
Um, a very secluded area that nobody's on. He mows these paths and trails through his property. Um, and it was coming up from, one portion, one ravine, one side of the ravine, let's say the swale, which I always hear and see things down there. There's so many encounters down there. And recently some weird tree structures there, but it was coming up from this one swale and came right up from, I don't know if maybe they were interested in the music and the hooting and the hollering over the cornhole, you know, um, whatever, but it came right up behind that pole barn to that little target shed, like where the targets were hanging, and in front of it. And the bird feeder, I got a picture of that. A bird feeder was hanging back along this trail alongside the woods. It's a pretty large one. Had hung there, according to the owners, forever. Through windstorms, everything. Right next to where I got the picture of that track. And I do have pictures of this bird feeder and a bunch of broken branches. The bird feeder was laying smashed on the ground and a bunch of broken branches around it near where I got that track. So I don't know if they were irritated by the music. I don't know if they were curious by it, but I knew when they were there, and I wanted that door open and we heard the screech yell. I knew there was something out there.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
sounds
then the
like they
next
were.
day at daylight, I got the proof of it.
Mm,
So,
okay.
and then, like I said, we followed them to the ravine. I wanted to go right down the ravine, but others were afraid, and I didn't want to go alone. Plus, it was heavy tick season, very heavy in ticks this year,
Yeah.
super heavy.
Yeah, I hate the
So,
ticks. Nora, before we continue the story, real quick, I want to see if you can hear this coyote yipping.
okay.
Can you hear that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I've never tried this before with anyone, so I figured I'd test it out with you. Did it sound
Yep.
similar to that, and then it went into something very unusual?
Yeah, and I have coyotes around me or around where I live. They're rampant. Like I have families named of them around here. It's amazing I even have any of my outdoor cats because there's so many coyotes. The howls and all that around. I actually have some tape recordings. I would love to get to somebody who has better equipment because I have none that can analyze them. I have that are right around my yard here, right around the woods in the forest I live in. But yes, it's that high pitched. I know I've lived in the woods. I've hunted all my life. I sleep on the forest floor in a sleeping bag, Miguel. I'm not afraid. I am. I bivouac out of the back of my truck. I go, all over the place like that. I I totally know the sounds of a forest. I know what it sounds like when a bear is next to you, chomping his teeth to threaten. The chomping of teeth. I've been that close to nature. So I do know the sounds, and I know like coyotes when they're on the chase, coyotes when they got their kill, coyotes when they're teaching their youngins and the little ones. So I know all those sounds. I could never replicate it. I would love to tape it. It's like that high pitched screech yip that a coyote starts with, but it went on longer at the high pitched screech, and then it kind of gutturally warbled down. I don't know how to say it. Came down from the high pitched into more like I don't know how to say it, even garbly, warbly sound. And there was a humanness characteristic to it. And just like my friend said, almost like an old lady cackle laughing. It sounds weird, like witchy, but that's what it sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't been able to get up to that property as much, mainly for following other polls in other areas. But they recently heard that same thing again in that same swale next to their cabin. scared them so much. Now, this person hand built that cabin, so they're like totally used to the woods. But they said since I've come along and started showing them all these things that are living on their property, it's also where the tracks came from in the snow, if you got those. They heard that exact same sound again, like an old lady, witchy, kind of cackly, not a coyote, not a
Yeah.
bird,
So
not a bobcat being,
it transitioned from what sounded like a coyote into something that was very unusual. Is that correct?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've noticed that the Sasquatch either mimic wildlife or they run around with the wildlife, like the coyotes, and they travel with the packs, or maybe the coyotes find the food and the Sasquatch start hollering to communicate with the rest of the other Bigfoots
They
in the
use
area.
each other. Do you,
Hmm.
okay, so that's my belief set. How many times I've heard a sound amongst before or during coyote, when they take off in a ruckus, what set them off? And you know how, have you ever had it where it's like so instantaneous? Not like where it's like there's one that's on the trail of chasing something and then the others follow it, so there's a trail of them, but where it's an instant takeoff of just this commotion.
Yeah, it was like they were all ready to communicate in their own
Mm,
strategic positions.
yeah, and speaking of so many times I have and been blessed. I call it blessed because I think it's magical. With howls and the sounds. Mecosta County, Michigan, another big area that I go. And the researching I do is pretty much on my own, and with whoever's brave enough to go traipsing where I go. I have little fear. But an area that I used to go to with my ex-husband and friends, on a regular basis fishing. It's called the floodplains of Michigan, Martini floodplains, another big squatchy area per se per recorded sightings and sounds. Going there with no intent of any kind of Sasquatch hunting or anything, because the people I was with, I had to hide that part of my life and my belief sets. So there was no going there with this intent. It was purely for angling, purely for bass fishing, and high level, top level fishing. So we're there pretty much every weekend for a while, finding this area that we want to fish in. There's a little tiny little campground there, like I'm talking a dozen campsites. Befriend the German couple that own that little bait shop and campground. Start going there on a regular basis. Really get to know the terrain. I'm finding tons of structures, but I can't say anything because I'm with people that I cannot talk about that stuff around, right? But I'm recording this in my own, journals and things. Well, one evening, it was kind of a last minute fishing trip where we didn't want to take the camper. We just took, this is me and my ex back then, probably a decade ago, 10 years ago. We just want to take the boat, don't want to take the camper. We'll just sleep in the back of the truck. Our friend has their camper up there at this area. They're new to the area. We're going to show them all the great fishing holes. It's like 10, 15 little lakes all connected together by a floodplain. Very remote, very wetland. And so we're fishing throughout the day. I'm finding all these structures. I'm not saying anything. We do our fish. We have a fish fry. We settle in kind of early, but it was dark. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So we're in the back of the pickup truck, just kind of settling in, getting comfortable. I don't even think we had YouTube or phone then to do that, just settling in. Had these little windows on the topper of the truck slid open so that it was kind of a warm late summer evening, and had those windows open. Dead silent. We're parked next to a waterway, swampy kind of area. It's got a couple little islands that you could go to by boat out from it. And it's dead silent. Not even frogs, which in that kind of an area, not to have be just, drowned out by frogs was unusual. Couldn't hear frogs. I thought of it, but nobody else said anything. So anyway, settling in, and out of that silence came the most ungodly roar. Started out, not even close to coyotes, way deeper, a very deep guttural roar. It sounded so close that it was 50, 60 yards over to where this little island, marshy island was, where you could take your boat and get out of it and walk around on it, just a little tiny marshy area. It was that close. It rocked like the truck. It when people talk about it coming through you, like through your body, it literally felt like it rocked the truck. The sound was that loud. And it was this deep roar, deep, but it got more frantic and high pitched and went really long. Though it was very long. And it froze both of us in the back of the truck, froze us upright as the roar goes through us, but then gets very high pitched. It got to the highest incredible pitch where it sounded like screeching metal. It was unbelievable, the screech it went into from this deep roar into that, and then back down, into the lower, octave roar. And right at the end of the roar, you could absolutely hear a ugh, like it was out of breath, like it just let out this ugh. It was crazy, and it was so loud that it was almost deafening.
I've heard the
Needless to
same.
say,
I've heard the
yeah,
same from a
needless to
lot of other
say, the
people.
handful of people that camped there, everybody came out and gathered, and we started up a bonfire and talked about it, but then all the stories came out from everybody that were native to the area, and I have tons of stories for that area too. So
why are there
yeah.
so many dogman encounters from Michigan, and do you think it's tied into the Sasquatch phenomenon?
I was almost hoping you wouldn't bring that up.
I'd hate to bring that on you and on your interview. That's all me, guys. I brought it up. She never mentioned it. But what do you think about it?
Listen, because here's the thing: I don't want to encounter dogman. I have a belief set, and from my experiences, I do not. Okay, I can see things at an elemental level, and I can see energies at an elemental level. In other words, a lot of my friends I see way too much, but that's also why I'm not afraid too. Um, but there is areas of fear for me. There is areas that I purposefully pray and stay protected from. Purposely. I only want to encounter good and follow the light, but we have to know that there is, both sides, yin and yang, both sides of the puzzle, dark and light, and that everything that is light, there's also a dark side that probably exists out there, and we can encounter them like we can encounter darkness or a bad thing happening every day. You can encounter these things. I purposely pray to protect myself from those things. I absolutely believe in them. I have friends and a relative that actually have had, we talk about people being pegged or tagged, like you, Miguel, and me.
Yeah. Why do you think
That
some people have so many experiences opposed to the rest of the population who doesn't experience?
I have exact understanding around that. It's the conscious level, the frequency that we walk in. We could go into a whole other interview about that too, but it truly is that. Those that are here that walk in kind of a different, I'm not saying people are better than other or higher than lower, but I'm talking about different consciousness or frequencies. We can change our frequency at will, higher or lower, but I think it's the ones that innately have a higher consciousness level or frequency level or understanding and knowledge are more apt to be aware of the truths that are around them. I think they're always there. I think it's just the vision, the mind's eye, the mind's ear, that the people carry. And I believe that people that carry these higher frequencies can invoke to others that may not see the ability to see those things, like me with my friends, like that never encountered those things till they met me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. It's not me that's causing it. It's the fact that it's a higher. When you're raising someone's frequency, they have the ability to see things that
No, it makes sense. Like, let's say if I walked into a group of people, I've never met them before, but I'm just angry. I look like I'm angry. I'm in a bad mood. That puts off a frequency, and they're not going to want to have anything to do with me. But let's say with Sasquatch, like, let's say if I'm out there, I'm in a good mood, or I'm open minded to the unknown, maybe they're more apt to come up to me, if that makes sense. Same with people in a large
Oh,
group. Like if I'm happy, willing to communicate and share positive thoughts, I think I'm going to make good friends that way.
absolutely. This, which is why I contacted you. But no, you're absolutely right. It's how it's right. It's the energy that we project that emulates from us. Our frequency affects everything around us, and then we choose to allow the frequencies around us to affect us. We have control over that. This is what, like I hope to someday teach people about. But right, when I go into a forest, well, I prefer to be in the forest. I have tons of friends. I'm very social, the whole thing, but I am at my absolute peak when I'm just alone with my elementals in the forest. But when I go into the forest or new areas, and especially when I'm following one of these poles that they drive me crazy sometimes. I have so many like working at me at once, actually. I wish I could be everywhere at once. When I approach areas, when I go about anywhere and I go into the woods, I first of all I say hi to everybody. I tell them that, you know, I'm perfect energy. I want to explore magic. I want to have knowledge. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be scared. I totally respect you. I will not contaminate you. And that means too, I'm very selective about who I share or who I take where. I don't want anyone with bad or wrong or dark belief sets to contaminate areas that I go to where I have encounters and things. And I talk to people about that, like when you come out here, you know, and you carry guns because it's bear territory. There's I'm sorry to say it this way, but there's meth heads in the woods. In certain areas you go, so you stay protected. But when I go into a forest and I'm protected with a mortal firearm or something like that, I go and I say, I don't intend to use this. That I come out here to share this beautiful bounty that our mother gives us. That, I want to experience your world and I will not contaminate you. And I teach the people that I go into the woods with to go with that same mindset. And
Yeah.
you know what?
Yeah.
You
And it
can talk
makes
to a lot of
sense.
my friends. They've had a lot of encounters by
Mhm.
being with it's frequency, it's energy,
I've
it's
seen that
what we all.
with like horses when people try to calm them down. Just it seems like talking to them seems to put them at ease, and when you act more aggressive, like they get more I wouldn't say dangerous, but unpredictable.
Well, right, because they can be afraid.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
oh, horses, I know. I've dealt with horses all my life, and you're right. They are very in tune creatures.
Mm,
Again, we talk about frequencies or a consciousness level. Um, and again, not saying anyone's better or not than the other. It's just consciousness level. There's, some people say old soul, new soul, or whatever. It's just there are some people that carry a higher consciousness level just because of where they're at in their journey, you know.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
those are the ones that we should look to, to be our guides and teachers and things like that too. That are able to see things. That's like when I started following, your channel and everything. There were a lot of other ones I started to follow, Miguel. But they were so, oh my gosh, the Bigfoot conference, I can't even tell you about that. Ugh. But I wasn't disappointed. I was so happy went so that I could see what other people are being exposed to, which it's so encapsulated and not the whole truth. And I was so glad I went to one of the more recent ones I went to because it gave me a perspective of what's going on out there in the public or the publicized world of paranormal research and Sasquatch, Bigfoot and Dogman and all of them. You have the ones that are out there just trying to make a scene and make money and this and that. And then you have the little ones like me or the people that don't necessarily want to be public, but they want to share the knowledge and the magic and form a community of sharers. And the more all of us share and the more of it, all of us become enlightened, what are we doing? When we become enlightened, we're raising the total frequency. And that's the community I'm looking to be a part of and to help and to share and maybe even guide and teach along the way. And that's why I reached out to you and your channel, because you do not shut it off as Bigfoot only being an animal or an ape. That it's no relationship at all to metaphysical or lights or whatever, that you leave it open to absolutely everything. And that's the only, I only want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of, it's almost like it's political anymore. I'm finding out, like, if you belong to this group, then you only believe they're apes. If you belong to this group, then, you believe they got dropped from an alien spaceship. I don't have a set, I just feel they're elemental beings of whatever combination they came here in. They have, I do feel, and I'm researching it more, and I'm just trying to document the best I can. But this flashlight or orb or whatever light, I've experienced it so much. I've photographed it so much. What is the connection? I don't know, but it seems to be that I've encountered them when I've encountered tree knocks. Just a few weeks ago at another property I frequent for these kind of encounters, I don't do whoops, I don't do yells, I don't do tree knocks, but every now and then, just for the heck of it, I let out a triple whoop, female whoop, 3 of them. Immediately, I wasn't even expecting nothing. I was kind of goofing around. Immediately after the last whoop, right across this little trail from where this little cabin I was at, and I had witnesses, they're standing there with me. Immediately after, there was thwack, 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 pause, thwack, thwack. It was crazy because it was right across the trail from us. We jumped, and we're like, holy cow, that was immediately after you did that. Then we waited and watched, for anything else. No other sound at all, but it sounded almost like a tree top that had branches on it. Like the thwacking, when I say that, it sounded like a treetop being hit against another tree or something hard. If that makes sense to you, like a bunch of little branches on a tree being hit against a more solid, bigger tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And this was like immediately across the trail from where this cabin was, like right there, like right near us. It really kind of unnerved us because it was so immediate. And it was in the dark, in the night, 11:30ish. No other sounds other than normal night creature sounds. But we were, again, just kind of talking about stuff and how I was saying I don't really believe in, whooping and this and that, but then again, I've done it and I've gotten responses. So what do you say? I've done tree
same
knocks.
here.
I did knocks on the side of my house. I shortly after I moved here, I feel like they were almost introducing themselves to me, or that I bought a place that was in their path because it hadn't been lived in for so many years. But
that's where you're living at now, in a forested area.
Yep. And right across the road from me, which is very thick woods, huge, loud, echoing in the night. I don't know even what got me out of bed that morning. It was 3:14 in the morning. I stepped out onto my deck. It was a summer evening. It was nice. I don't know why, but I just stepped out there, and it was just 3 loud whacks, loud, echoing in the night, right across the road from me.
What do you think they meant?
I don't know, because I wasn't up and about and out. But something woke me up to where I got up and got out of bed. Of course, I think I told you that in my emails, I don't have normal sleep patterns anyway, but I got up at that time and I walked out. It was a beautiful summer night. I love being outside. I sleep out on my deck often, but it just was so weird that the minute I walked out onto my deck, there's these 3 loud whacks across the road. And so I turned around and with the palm of my hand, I whacked on the siding of my house 3 times, which was very loud, and it echoed, like a summer night does, it echoes. And then I got 2 more back. And actually, I got kind of a little unnerved, and I came back in the house and went back to bed. But I've had a lot of things. I mean, this whole area where I live, like I said, there's kind of a legend about what they call the Bentley Howlers near Bentley, Michigan here, or
I've heard of
in
that.
Gladwin, Michigan. Yeah.
I think the Small Town
So,
Monsters crew talked about that, and I think it was like one of the first Dogman stories that ever emerged.
I know, don't keep saying dog man, Miguel.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the same area.
I'm
That
trying, no, I really don't want to encounter a dog man, but yes, this area,
okay. Is
yes.
that what you
There's,
were talking about though? Because I was just watching Small Town Monsters, and they mentioned that
yeah,
same area in Michigan. So
yeah,
sorry
yeah.
to take it that
And I'm,
way.
no, no, I'm trying to make fun of it, you know.
Yeah. No.
No, I just don't want to encounter that because I have not read or heard of, nor do I get a good feeling about any any kind of good or neutral encounters when it comes to dogmen. Usually they're aggressive. They're not just like talking back and forth. You know, when I talk about talking back and forth, the chimpanzee talk is
Mhm.
a constant here where I live. I have that taped as well. Love to get that on some better equipment because it's on my phone.
Yeah.
Not a good place to tape things.
Well, hopefully, you don't encounter a dog man, and
No, I don't want to.
yeah, hopefully the
But
Sasquatch
that's
encounters
huge
remain
around here.
positive.
I'm afraid to even talk to my cousin about it, my distant cousin. She wants to talk about it. She even tells me of the area near Clare where she grew up. And that's where I actually grew up as a young girl. But and the nightmares in her life. And I don't want to keep avoiding it and avoiding talking to her about it because in my belief set and kind of the way we were raised and kind of um, we were raised in kind of a Native American area of Michigan with the Chippewa and the Ojibwe. And a lot of the teachings we were taught when we were, because we were allowed, my parents taught us everything. Like I said, my mom was a teacher. So we learned about the Ojibwe and the Chippewa ways around us. Here in Michigan, we learned about, then again, being raised Roman Catholic, we had those teachings, but we were not to mention out loud or talk about or bring forth the energy to certain things. And I'll say it, although I don't say it very often, the words, because I was taught not to say them too much, like Wendigo and Dogman, those things. You don't bring that energy forward.
Yeah, and
That's how I was taught.
don't you think it's interesting that the Native Americans said that if you talk about it, it'll bring it in or let it in or it'll
Yeah,
show up, whatever. And the
yeah,
Catholic religion talks about seek and you shall find, knock and the door
yeah,
will be open. It's
yeah.
essentially the same teaching.
It's exactly the same. Because when again, if we look to and we call forward dark energies, people with Ouija boards, people that dabble in darkness, when you call forward or your intent is, to me, every bit of energy is driven by intent. So if your intent is to call forward dark, that's what you're going to get. If your intent is to call forward the good, that's what you'll get.
Projecting
Um,
this frequency or thought.
mhm,
Mhm.
yep. Just like going into the forest. And my intent is I would love to encounter and correspond with you. A gifting stump. I don't know how long you want me to talk, Miguel. The gifting stump at another disc golf course, which I don't go to anymore because the um the uh, um the army base there expanded their territory and actually cut into part of the area I used to have a gifting stump. And I feel like they said goodbye to me. And if you want to hear that
If you
story.
want to go into that, absolutely.
So another place I frequent, I'll name it because everybody knows about the military base in Gaylord, Grayling, Michigan, and how they just expanded their territory and cut out a whole new area of the woods. But there's a disc golf course and an old ski lodge there. It's a recreational area for like the fat tire bike riding and disc golfing. It's an extremely challenging disc golf course because you have to throw up these ski hills, throw up. And it's very challenging, but it's also very remote. And on the back end of the old ski lodge, recreation areas, a lot of woods, the state land, the federal land, and it's the base here. So they expanded that recently, but for years had been disc golfing there. And there was a place off of a certain hole, and I'm not going to say a lot, I don't, about it, because I actually haven't been there since I got my last, what I call message from them. I have not gone back there. Um, I would trail off into the woods and down a ravine partway to a stump. I don't know why I was pulled to that stump, but I was. One of my disc golfing partners, she knows about it. She would go with me. She's the only one I showed, the only person I showed. The others would just keep going on the trail disc golfing. Oh, Nora's doing her thing. They loved me for it, but I would kind of delay our disc golfing sometimes, going off on my little treks. So I went down to the gift stump. I don't know why I was pulled there the first time, but the first time I went there was already something on the stump that I thought was strange. So I thought, cool. I switched it out with some things. A couple of weeks later, went disc golfing there again. Oh my goodness. I was just kind of messing around the first time. What I had put there was changed and something else was there. I started this thing for like a little over 2 years on this one stump that only one other person knew. In fact, I would make sure there were no other people disc golfing or riding their bikes when I would cut off trail to go down there to it. I would make sure. And so it was everything from, I had certain crystals I would carry with me, bones. One time when I went there was my stone I had left there. The other things were gone, but my stone was still there, a pine cone, and a scapula off of a small animal. It was weird. Like, I didn't put that scapula, that bone in. And it went on this way. It was different things, and I had pictures of the different things. And then the last time that I had gone, I don't know what told me it was the last time, but I knew it was. They had signs up everywhere and fences up where they were going to be, cutting down the trees and expanding the base, the military base there and all this, which was kind of cutting into that area I explored. And we didn't even disc golf that day. I guess I just went back for a hike. So go back with this one friend, and we go down there. And as we're walking up to the stump, it's got this white stuff all over the top of it. Like, what is that? I get up there, it's this giant piece of lichen. You know what lichen is? That it's like moss kind of lichen, and it could be very light whitish green. And this large piece of lichen, exactly that hits the top of the stump, covering the whole top of the stump, is laying there, and there's 3 blue jay feathers on it. I have photographs of that. What? I literally, Miguel, I fell to my knees. They were communicating with me. And whatever was going through me, I'm not saying mind speak. I get intuition in a different way, I think. I felt like it was a goodbye token. Like they weren't going to be there anymore.
Yeah, it very well could have been. I've gotten feathers, mushrooms, and strange items in the past, and it seems like they're letting you know that they're watching you, and it's some form of communication. Maybe they're trying to befriend you, or just simply let you know they're in the area.
Or I also think that elemental spirits, which we all are, I believe in energy from the source light that directs and feeds all of us. So it's a form of communication. When we talk about symbols and these structures, I find symbols in the forest, on the floor, in tree, that are made. They're constructed. They are not free fall. And we can go on about me, but there is more about me. We can even talk offline about writings that I write, messages that I get, and very much have to do with symbols. I see the same symbols that I write in the forest. I think I watched one of yours where you were talking about not only structures, but like triangles and other kind of X's and things like that in the forest. I believe it's communication at a level that is so Aboriginal, so before First Nation, that belongs to all of us from the source light. Like, you would understand it, I would understand it, a Sasquatch would understand it, Dogman would, you know what I mean? A universal language through symbols.
It could be the first language.
I do. I've started making, I started noticing how these structures and things I'm finding in the forests or in whatever I'm shown, I find various circles of, I call them fairy circles. That's just my pet name for them. But I find them out of stone and mushrooms and you name it. But I find symbols through these things too. Like, how could these sticks form an exact perfect pyramid, triangle? How could it wasn't it somebody placed these sticks this way? I find stone chakras in the middle of the forest where there's no paths or who stacked these stones here? Where did these stones come from? There's not even any stones in this immediate area. That's that's my everyday in the forest. Like, I see that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate Dave for reading the email that my friend sent in, because I know exactly that my purpose is to share information and knowledge with others, but the platform to do it on has been, I kind of almost have become more reclusive about it because the platforms out there, there's so much out there, Miguel. I trust in only a certain few because, number one, I follow all my intuition and I trust in my gut. And I've always been perfectly guided that way. So it was my friends actually that have been urging me for so long to get out there. I have family and friends that are urging me to write a book. I write. So I'll just talk about it this way. When I came back from my journey, I came back with I write automatically, not by my choice, but by what comes through me. People that are around me all the time, my coworker, I'm retired now, but my ex coworkers, they saw it, if spirit came through to me and had a message that I had to write for somebody or for something, I would automatically write. There's a lot of people like that, but I became an automatic writer through that. And many of the things that I write or the things that I draw, I'm an artist too. My first college degrees are in art. I draw. It's like I have drawn. The friend of mine that had the orb experience for the first time and that wrote into Dave Politis, what they didn't put into that story was when I first met them, it was for a different reason. It was for a reason of spiritual connection and healing. And I went into writing for this person from their spirits. They talk about me getting to know their mother, who's gone. She came in spirit. So that's how he talks about it, that I got to know his mother and that she talked through. But in the very beginning days, and I'm talking the first days and hours of meeting this person, I started drawing, and I carry my drawing tools with me always. I started drawing a place in the woods, in this shack, and the door was hanging open on this shack, and I need to go there. We need to go there. You need to go there for healing, I was telling this person. And they're like, the only place I can think of is my hunting cabin in the woods. And here to there is how I ended up visiting and going to this property at this cabin in the woods. When they took me to show me where this cabin was in the woods, I immediately on the way there, through my pulls or whatever you want to call that I get, I'm exactly led to places by spirit or by source energies. I knew I was in a familiar area, even though I had never ever been there before in my life that I knew of. As soon as we turned up this very wooded 4-wheel drive kind of entrance through the woods up to this knoll where this little hunting shack was, as soon as we're pulling up there, you're facing the outhouse, the privy, and the door is hanging open on it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I had my picture with me that I drew. I drew exactly that, the outhouse with the door hanging open. And he's like, dang it, because he likes the door to be left shut to the outhouse. Somehow it got open. But I drew that in my vision. And then when he took me, and then just all kinds of magic came from there. I drew many spots that I had gone or been pulled to. Like, I'll get a vision and I'll draw it. Maybe it's a big old dead tree with certain woodpecker holes in it, but I'll draw it and I'll find the exact tree through my pulls. through my artwork and my drawings. And I have many of those. I have volumes and volumes of books of drawings and writings and things like that. So way beyond the whole Bigfoot thing, but I also think very much related to. It's just, we're not the only ones. We're not the only energy that inhabits this planet. We need to be part of it, and we need to nurture it, and we need to coexist. Is what I believe.
Okay. So we already touched base on this earlier. You believe, similar to the Native Americans, that it's something physical and spiritual. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, we all are, Ben. We all are.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I do have a lot of Native American friends that have stayed deep, deep in their history. I have been invited to powwows, not the for show ones, not the tourist ones, but I know a lot about at least the Ojibwe and and more than that. When I lived in Colorado, I got very much into the Native American way. I've always been drawn to the Aboriginal or the First Nation truths because they're more in tune with what I have found or what I know or what I saw on my journey. They're closer to that knowledge set of mine than modern time a lot of times is for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that pretty well wraps up your story. I mean, I don't think it covers everything, obviously, but
Not even close.
yeah, not even close. But I think you did an excellent job at relaying
Oh,
your
thank you.
experiences. You were a great speaker, and you're a very positive person to talk to.
Wonderful. I feel the same about you. I hope we can have more talks. I'd love to share more with you. Oh Miguel, I have so many videos and pictures. Help me get those to you so you can see a lot of the other things. I want you to see me walking around in that structure because I have to tell you what happened after that real quick. I
Okay,
just recently went.
that one actually
I just
just came
recently went
through,
back there.
so I got to see it.
Yeah, well, I just recently went back there. That was October 24th of 2022. My goal was to revisit the area October 24th this year. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get there, so I went a little bit earlier, so there was more foliage on the ground. So I go there, and as soon as I turned on the scenic Route 3, I was disheartened. They had clear-cutted the whole north side of that track or trail or part of the forest I got led into, right? So I got off of the quad exactly where I got off of it and walked back in before to the structure. And it was clear cut all behind me, and I was just devastated. My heart was pounding. But I know the clear cutting they do here is select, and it's good for the forest, and it's good, but I still don't know how wildlife reacts to it. I went back to start going to the structure, and I stopped dead in my tracks about 10 feet off of the trail, and I couldn't go further to go back to that structure. I couldn't. I got this feeling of stop. And then I heard three weird whoops, not like a sandhill, not like a crane, but down in the swallow or the swamp that's behind where that structure I took pictures of. I never did actually go all the way back to it because something, I can't even explain it. It stopped me dead in my tracks. I couldn't make another step forward. I almost didn't want to see, but I felt disheartened by the clear cutting that was going on. And I don't know if it's a feeling I got from the area or what, but I just recently went to go find that again in hopes to take pictures of it this year, a year later, to send to you, but I couldn't go any farther off the trail for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have encountered something dangerous. Who knows? Maybe that's the protection that's around me. Because I had just encountered bears there, where a friend of mine that was with me was not that, like we encountered a couple bears and you don't run, but broke into a run. Like, don't run. You walk backwards, I'll walk forwards. The mama bear might be around. Let's just be careful, but it was that kind of feeling like, oops, back up, don't go. So I don't know if I would have encountered something if I would have proceeded on towards that swamp or that structure, where I took the picture or what, but I didn't go. So, and I don't even know if it's still there now because they're actively clear cutting that hillside.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about that same feeling when they go back into these structure areas, and it very well could be something back there watching and
Maybe I
observing.
got in trouble for walking around in it.
Yeah, yeah, it could have been.
uh, Such a pleasure talking to you. I'm so glad that we were able to connect.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to talk more about the other things that you mentioned behind scenes, and yeah, I want to thank you for sharing all of your finds openly and your willingness to talk to me here on Sasquatch Theory.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for allowing me the time and the voice. Like I said, so many of my friends and family have urged me, to share and to get out of my tight little circle. And I've the persecution, the whole, thinking I'm nuts, crazy, weirdo, the whole thing, whatever. I'm actually, I guess I'm endeared to it now. People call me the only unicorn in the room, the bee in the jar, whatever they want to call me. My friends that love and family that love me the most and know that I'm just as real as anybody else. They're the ones that are close. I've lost friends over my belief sets in Sasquatch. I've been actually yelled at. I actually got kicked off like a side-by-side group that goes out on the trails side by side, which I don't necessarily believe in ripping up the forest, but I kind of like got booted off that group because of my belief sets in Bigfoot. I was told, oh, we got weirdos like you traipsing around in the woods, ruining the hunting for the rest of us real people. That was the comment I got. But
Yeah.
yet I'm a hunter too. I deer hunt and all that too. But yeah, that's the kind of persecution I'll get from some people.
Yeah, it sounds like typical feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You probably know it well too.
Yeah, you'll just have to keep yourself intact and know that everything you experienced and encountered is real. And I understand your belief system and your approach to things.
Good. I hope that we can help others. Especially, who I want to help the most are the ones like me and you, the ones that know and see and are at that conscious level. The ones that, like myself, you're done. Who cares about persecution anymore? We just need to have each other to talk to. And the more we enlighten people to, the light energy that's out there, how to look at light and dark. You want to talk about dogman, okay, but it's all there. So, deal with it, people. Get out of your mortal cocoon. We are not the only ones. And let's all coexist on this planet, all energies together. And that's where I walk.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, Nora. Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I got a few other people to interview, but we'll connect later in the future, and hopefully we can talk more about your experiences.
Wonderful. Miguel, take care. It was so great talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Nora. And you take care of yourself, and hopefully we get to talk again soon.
Oh, we will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right. Thank you very much, Nora, for sharing your experiences and your finds. And I appreciate everyone for listening today. Yeah, if you guys can, go check out the Can-Am Missing Project with Dave Politis, and you can check out his videos called The Missing 411, and it's very interesting stuff. He goes and interviews people who have had missing family members and tries to put the pieces of the puzzle together. But yeah, if you guys can, go support his channel and go subscribe. Yeah, it seems like everyone has a different perspective depending on the person, and no two people look at this subject the exact same, so that just indicates that no one really knows what's going on. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for supporting the channel. Thank you, everyone. Subscribe if you haven't. Take care.